Honourable Jonathan Coleman.
Speaker, I must say it's good to be back in the House, and I trust everyone had an excellent break. And certainly there's some pretty serious work for the government to get down to this year, as outlined quite clearly in the Prime Minister's excellent statement this afternoon. And that member who's just spoke, well, he wants to know what the economic vision is. I think the Prime Minister has spelled it out very clearly on multiple occasions. We want to see that gap close between New Zealand and Australia. We want to see incomes in this country rise. We want to see GDP rise. It's been spelled out absolutely clearly, and that member actually knows it very, very well. Well, if that member reads the Prime Minister's 9,500 word statement, which was tabled this afternoon, he will see there is a very clear program of work there to get the economy going. And the PM said quite clearly, the economy is the #1 priority for this government this year. And these guys over here, well, they may have been expecting a detailed budget statement, but I think there was plenty in that statement which clearly indicated the direction that the John Key government is going in this year. And there was a lot there about tax reform, a lot of new stuff. He's ruled out some options. He said other stuff is going to happen. And they say over there that they don't like the idea of an increase in GST. Well, very much depends, Mr. Speaker, on how that question is put. Because if you go to someone and say, do you want GST to go up? Well, there's not going to be too many New Zealanders who are actually going to agree with that. But if you say to someone, would you rather have more money in your hand each week to spend that you control how it's actually spent, would you be prepared to have an increase in GST? And quite frankly, the overwhelming majority of New Zealanders say yes. So these guys can try and twist it around how they like, but the idea of the tax changes that the Prime Minister has foreshadowed today are going to be to incentivise work, to get people back into the workforce, to give people the incentive to get off benefits and to actually grow the economy. Because these guys, for 9 years, were in charge of a system where the incentives were totally wrong, where it made more sense for people to stay on benefits rather than to get out and do that little bit of extra part-time work that would earn that extra money for their family. And I can tell you, these guys complain about the speech today. Well, you only had to listen to Phil Goff's speech to hear a speech that had absolutely no substance in it. There's only one guy here today who would have really thought that speech was good, and that was Shane Jones, because quite frankly, I think that's brought the leadership challenge forward probably by about 6 months, if not a year. Because that was a dire speech from Mr. Goff today. There was not a single idea. And I tell you what, there's no response there from the Labor benches because they know it's absolutely true. The two big ideas Phil Goff has come out with this year is that he wants to see CEO salaries capped, and the other thing is there was some idea about Jackie Blue's electorate office, some incoherent ramble that he spent several minutes of his speech talking about today. But these guys are all criticism, but they're no idea. And the reason for that is they had 9 years to grow the economy. They actually wasted the best years of our economic of our economy by shrinking the economy. Under that government over there, that party, when they were in power, the tradable sector of the economy, where we earn all our income, that actually shrunk by 10%. There was economic growth, but that was just on the basis of debt and consumption. So we had this situation when New Zealanders had access to easy credit. They borrowed more and more. The economy grew, but in the end, it turned out to be a house of cards. And the only way this economy is going to grow is if we encourage exports, get the tradable sector growing again, get tourism going, another major part of our economic growth. Well, it's pretty obvious. You know what's been happening in terms of the signing of FTAs. The government has gone out aggressively in the last year, opening up new markets for New Zealand goods. The Prime Minister took the tourism portfolio. He recognised that that was a crucial area in which we could grow the economy, and we're going to see revenues from that increase at quite a rate over the next couple of years, because that is where the emphasis is going. But the problem for Phil Goff is really he has no credibility. He got up in the House today and said, I don't believe in GST. Well, he has been round the circle twice in government. He voted for GST in 1986. He was actually a big fan of the flat tax, of Roger Douglas's flat tax. So the problem Phil Goff has got is essentially Phil doesn't know whether he's left or right. He's caught in between. He's been around way too long, and basically the parliamentary record has completely caught up with him. This idea he had last week about capping CEOs' salaries, well, that's all very well, but when you look at the historical record, Phil Goff was right behind the State Services Act. He was part of a government that spent a long time trying to actually raise the pay for public servants. He actually wanted the salaries of CEOs to come up and up. And so when he finally gets an opportunity at the start of the political year, a crucial year to Phil Goff, that is all he can come out with. One idea which is absolutely contradicted by the political record. Meanwhile, National, we reckon we were elected on the basis of three things. To get the economy right, we were the people. John Key was the man that the public trusted to, to conduct effective stewardship of the New Zealand economy. And that the public have faith in the plan that he is putting forward. The second thing they elected the government on was to sort out law and order. And frankly, under that lot over there, it's a fact. People did not feel safe in their houses. And the third issue that we've been elected on, the third crucial issue, is to get education right. And you know, before Helen Clark became the Prime Minister back in 1998, she said it was totally unacceptable that 1 in 5 New Zealand kids leave school not being able to read or write properly. So they can't read the editorial of the Dom each day, the front page headlines. 10 years later, when she left office, that is the same statistic. And basically, the education system under Labor failed New Zealand students. John Key has said, we're not going to stand for that. It's going to be a key plank to getting the country going in the long term. We are going to make sure that New Zealand children come out of the schools being able to read and write. And national standards is going to be a key part of that. We campaigned on that election plank. People knew what they were getting. And Kelvin Davis, he agrees with it. He can't say it now, he's a Labor MP, but he knows it. He knows what happened when he was principal at his school, when he took it over, the standards for reading and writing, and that man made a great difference at his school, but it was through testing children, showing parents how their children stood at a national standard and how they should improve. And think of it like this. There'll be many people out there watching and listening who have had kids. When you go along to the Plunket nurse, you know exactly how your child is doing on that growth chart. You want to know if your little son or daughter is below the norm, above the norm, doing okay on height and weight. National standards is just like that. If you're a parent at a school, you want to know, is your child below average? Are they doing okay? Are they actually a gifted child? Why should people in the poorest parts of New Zealand, the people these people claim to represent, why should they be putting up with their children failing? Why should they? It's not good enough. And John Key has said he's going to get the economy right. There's a clear plan in there. You guys, those members over there, they haven't bothered even reading the statement. There's a clear vision for where we want to go, catching up with the Australians. There's a clear plan in the education system. We are going to make sure that children can read or write, and the first step to that is knowing how they're actually doing. And there's a clear plan on law and order. We've brought in penalties and sentences which are making it way, way tougher for the criminals out there to go about their dastardly deeds. And look, I can tell you, these guys are in league with the teachers' unions. This is basically the provisional wing of the teachers' unions that you're looking at over there. They know 30% of teachers in New Zealand are not up to standard, 70% are excellent. And I can tell you why, if you are an excellent teacher, if you're leading a successful school, why would you not want to be measured? And the reality is, if you've got nothing to worry about, you are doing a good job. If you're doing a good job, you will not worry about your parents at your school being able to see exactly how their child is doing. And I can tell you, the thing about the Prime Minister, he has brought a focus to the job that time-expired Labor politicians like Phil Goff, they may have had it once, they don't have it anymore. John Key lays out things clearly in terms of the economy, education, law and order. And you know what? Most importantly, it's actually a program that New Zealanders believe in. It's a great